It is unfortunate, but it's also really, really important that we practice social distancing and self-isolation. You're not going to have access to your gym, group fitness class, or your trainer. And a lot of you are feeling concerned about how this is going to impact your health and fitness goals and you maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Now in this video, I want to talk about the impact that this may or may not have on your weight loss or weight maintenance during this time and how we can work around that. Now when we look at total body weight, it's made up of things that we can't change and also made up of things that we can change. Some of the things that we can change are the amount of fat mass that we have. And our fat is stored to give our body energy for our physical activities. Then we have your muscle mass. We also have glycogen, which is a stored form of carbohydrate, and water. Now when we consume carbohydrates and it's broken down into glycogen and it's stored in the muscle cell, that process of taking the glycogen across the muscle cell and it being stored also requires water. For every 1 gram of glycogen, we store 3 to 4 grams of water. So any increases or decreases in carbohydrates and water can have a significant effect on someone's total body weight. But when we see an increase in total body weight from glycogen and water stored, this is not necessarily a bad thing, because muscle mass plus your glycogen and water contribute to your lean body mass. Now, obviously, if your goal is long-term weight loss and your weight goes up, that doesn't directly give you any benefits or a positive result, but it may not be an increase in fat mass, which is probably what you think it is, and then you start to feel guilty about your actions. When in fact, if it's a acute, like a daily up and down change, it's more likely going to come from this than it is from this. And you've probably experienced this before when dieting, when you've been on severe restrictions, either calorie and or carbohydrates, is that you lose weight really, really quickly because we're seeing a significant decrease in the amount of glycogen and water stored in the body. And again, for every 1 gram of glycogen, up to 4 grams of water. So most of it is water, not necessarily fat mass that you're losing. And then when you go back to some form of normal eating and normal consumption of carbohydrates, we see your weight go straight back up. But again, majority of the time, it's more increases and decreases here than it is increases or decreases here. Okay? But how do you know whether it's this or this? Let's continue. So your total daily energy expenditure is made up of 4 different things. This is the amount of energy that you expend per day. So the first thing is your BMR. This is the amount of energy that your body requires to keep you alive. Okay? This contributes around 60 to 65% of your total daily energy expenditure. So significantly more than half. We then have NEAT. This stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this is most commonly thought of as your daily steps. Now it's not just daily steps, but we have smartwatches, we have smartphones, we can track your steps. So it's something that we can definitely get information on. And like if I was to ask you to be more active, I could ask you to get more steps in and you could look at those items and you could determine whether you are doing more steps or not. But it's also things like walking to and from the store, walking to and from the subway, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, how much you move your hands when you talk to people. All these different things contribute over time for you expending more energy. And this is often, I'd say around 20%. Now we look at exercise. And I think this is where most of you are concerned that you're going to see a drop in the intensity and maybe the amount that you're exercising. But exercise only contributes maybe 10 to 15%. So not really that much. And it's only 15% if you're crushing workouts like multiple times, 5+ per week. And then we have something called the thermic effect of food. This is only around 5%. I wouldn't even bother worrying about that. Now, if we go back to exercise, I mentioned the intensity of your workout. Now, there was a study by Lofton in 2010 where he had a normal person walk a mile at just under 3 miles an hour, an overweight person walk a mile in just under speed of 3 miles an hour, and then a marathon runner at just under 7 miles per hour. And what we saw was that the amount of energy expended by all 3 people was actually pretty much the same. I think it was 93.9, 98.4, and then maybe 99.3. So considering the marathon runner was running twice as fast, same distance, different body sizes, there was not that much difference in terms of the amount of energy expended. And I think often we think that the amount of effort we put in, the amount of calories, okay, increases the same way. But what happens is the amount of effort you put in goes, but the amount of calories just goes a small increase. So I'm not saying don't put the effort in when you're working out, but what I am saying is that you may not be able to crush your workouts now the same way you do in your group fitness class or at your local gym. But just doing some physical activities, some lunges, some squats, some push-ups, some hollow holds, some side planks, whilst also maybe going outside a bit more frequently, getting some daily steps. And the two of those can combine to have a significant increase on your total daily expenditure. We may not see as much increase in terms of physical fitness because we're not getting that intensity. We may not see as much increase in strength because we don't have any weights to lift, but we can still focus on increasing total daily energy expenditure, okay? And this is gonna have a significant impact on the amount of calories that you can consume and maintain your weight or lose weight if that's your goal right now. Fat. 1 pound of fat provides 3,500 calories of energy to us. So based on your total daily energy expenditure, if you were eating the same amount of calories that you were consuming, you would not gain any fat. And that we might see your weight go up and down. It'll probably go down and up rather than going above, but those up and downs are more likely going to come from changes in lean body mass, more so than changes in fat. And this can be just simply if you work out in the evening and then weigh yourself in the morning. You're likely to be lighter than if you worked out in the morning and weigh yourself 24 hours later, because the amount of activity and the types of activities that you may have done have been further away from the time that you're weighing in. And we may see maybe like dehydrated, lack of water, lack of glycogen, etc. But now, if your total daily energy expenditure is X and you're 100 calories over, and you would have to do that every single day for 35 days to see an increase of around 1 pound of fat. Okay? 200 would be around 14 days, and then 500 plus would be around 7 days. Again, you would have to do that every single day, every single day. So there might be some days where you go over, there might be some days where you're at maintenance, there might be some days that you're under. But if you can understand how you can maintain an active lifestyle, doing some workout, getting some non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, and just staying alive, then you can work out how many calories you're consuming. If you know that you are around maintenance, then any fluctuations are going to be more likely here, not necessarily a bad thing in changing weight, than here. If you know you're over-consuming or your weight is consistently going up, then you've probably already done this, and now we're starting to do here. But you can always come back here by just reducing your intake, maybe slightly. So you might need to make some changes, but you probably don't need to make as many changes as you previously thought, because again, exercise doesn't contribute as many calories as maybe you previously thought, and also the amount of the effort you put into the workout isn't going to significantly change the amount of calories you burn. It's more important that you just do something that's physically active, and you should be able to do that. You should have the time and access to do that. If you're already doing it before, then you should still have the same amount of time. And then the last thing I want to talk about is refeeds. So maybe this is not the ideal scenario for you to think about dieting in terms of a weight loss goal. And maybe this is a really good opportunity for us to focus on weight maintenance. You know, we've had some really interesting studies recently come out about the impact and benefit of refeeds in terms of long-term weight loss, but more importantly, long-term weight management. Now, you've probably heard refeed more commonly referred to as a cheat meal. They are not the same thing. Okay? A refeed here is a controlled and specific amount of calories increased to elicit a specific change in adaptation, which we're going to talk about now. A cheat meal is just eat as much food as you can in a certain window of time, but often what happens is you consume too many calories, that we see some fat gain, so it's not good for either of these things. So a refeed, okay? The benefits that we see from refeeds is that at the end of a dieting phase, people have a higher amount of a higher rate of higher BMR, sorry, metabolic rate. Again, this is more than half of your total daily expenditure, so this is really important. We see that they maintain more muscle mass, okay, which gives you the opportunity to store more glycogen and water, okay, and have more lean body mass. So you end up losing more fat per pound over time. So the most recent study we have is one from Bill Campbell. He had two groups. One group dieted continuously for 7 days over a period of weeks, and he had one group that dieted for 5 days and then had a 2-day refeed. The refeed came in the form of carbohydrates, and it was calculated that they increased their intake to maintenance calories. And then what they saw was that the amount of weight loss from both groups, they were in the same deficit on average over a week, was pretty much the same. But the group that had the refeeds, again, had a considerably higher BMR, more muscle mass, and lost more fat per pound. Okay? And often when we're looking for weight loss goals, it's to improve our body composition. So if we can lose more fat per pound, that's going to make a more significant difference to our body composition. Also, fat in terms of size and mass per pound is much larger than muscle mass. So losing 1 pound of fat is going to make a much bigger visible difference to your body over a period of time. Now, the best study we have is from the University of Tasmania. Now, they had one group that dieted continuously for 16 weeks, and then they had one group that did 16 weeks of dieting, but in 2-week increments. So it actually took this group 30 weeks to complete a 16-week dieting period, because the 2 weeks in between didn't count. They were at maintenance calories. Now, this is like a really, really excellent study. They calculated new maintenance calories for each person in the 2-week diet break, where they lost weight, they maintained, they lost weight, they maintained. And what they saw is that over the 30 weeks versus the 16 weeks, again, same amount of weeks actual dieting or actually in a deficit, is that there was a 47% increase in the amount of body fat lost from the 30-week group to the 16-week group. Significant amount of muscle mass retained, BMR was higher, but the biggest benefit was that there was a much, much lower rate of weight regain in that group versus the 16-week group. So again, this may not be a period of time where you can really focus on trying to get your weight down, but this could be a really good period of time for you to set yourself up for success. Okay? Can we get a better understanding of your total daily energy expenditure? Can we increase here? Can we just focus on maintaining an active lifestyle? Can we start to think about making better decisions with our food and maintaining our weight right now, so that when we go back to some form of normal routine, you have access to your gym, your group fitness classes, your trainer, any one or all of those things, okay, you will have a lot more good habits that will allow you to progress at a much faster rate than maybe you're progressing right now, and will see you achieve much better results in the long term. So again, I know a lot of people are feeling concerned about not being able to exercise, not being able to diet as rigidly as you may want, but this is the situation we're in. Okay? You still have a lot of options, a lot of opportunities available to you. So please don't be too concerned. I hope this video has been helpful, and as always, if you guys have any questions, then please pop them below.